Today is a celebration of Selma Usiku. Selma Usiku is an experienced exploration geologist with a demonstrated history of working in the Namibian oil and gas industry. She's skilled in petroleum geoscience, 3D seismic interpretation, earth sciences, and petroleum geology. It's a mouthful, but she's got this. A holder of a Master of Science degree, Selma obtained her qualification from the University of London. When she's not wearing her science coat, her lab coat, Selma is a part-time radio and television host here in Namibia, voice artist and MC. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Shee. Thank you so much for the invitation.
With all that, I'm like, where did she find that? I'm like, you probably start what time? 6 o'clock in the morning?
Well, I have school runs in the morning, so I'm up by 5 anyway.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a morning person, don't get it twisted. But, as a mom,
you gotta make
it's
it
a full-time
happen.
job. There's
Absolutely.
no office.
Yeah. Let's start with your history, with your story. Tell us about your childhood, growing up as a young girl in Namibia or beyond.
Yeah. So I was born in Windhoek. I spent like the first 6 years of my life running up and down those dusty mountains of Durban. I spoke Afrikaans eerste taal until I came to the city for primary school. I went to the Holy Cross Convent and then later to St. Paul's College for high school. I was a very energetic and athletic child. I did all sorts of sports from primary school up until university. I was a very
running,
still running, extremely enthusiastic, extremely energetic. I think my friends would probably describe me as the class clown. I was and still am quite loud. I've just had to corporate,
and then tunalize it, balance her.
Tunalize it. Yes. But that energy hasn't really changed. I'm very animated about everything that I do. I shoot my shots everywhere. I remember my mother, once telling me, apart from my very obvious tomboy nature, I used to get into a lot of trouble for coming home after the street lights. After the street lights, that rebellious part of me is still in there. Walking around with white socks in the mud, things like that. But in general, I think I was a very, relaxed child, obedient when I needed to be. But very average. I didn't really think there was anything extraordinary. I was just a regular winter kid. Yeah.
What kind of things were going on in your head while you were running up and down the mountains in Deborah when you were running with white socks? What kind of dreams and ambitions were you building for yourself? What did your visions look like?
Shay, to be very honest with you, for the first 13 years of my life, I don't even think I took life seriously. For me, life was about friends and playing. I can't even remember doing homework. But I do know that I had this curious nature and a very curious mind. I love nature, science, the universe, and just really being outdoors. So I think, a career in natural sciences and natural earth sciences was a long time coming. I just never knew exactly what. I thought about oceanography and astronomy and, all these sort of things, but I never really thought, geologist. I did know what I did not want to be. Careers like law. When do these people see the sun? They're always reading and indoors, or like accounting. There are just not enough pictures in those books,
to keep the mind going.
Or, careers like medicine. Yes, you help people, but I'm so empathetic. I would be crying with the patient as I'm describing their symptoms and telling them what's going on. I don't think those kind of careers would have worked. I definitely knew what I didn't want to do, but knowing what I wanted to do for sure was a journey. But growing up in Namibia, running up and down those mountains, having great role models, and the funny thing is they're not always women, they were usually men. In these very powerful careers, and I wanted to be in mine with a helmet outdoors. It was a long time coming, and I think for me, it just needed to be the world should be my office. I didn't want to be cooped up in an air-conditioned corporate world. Of course, life had other plans, but my intention was to be outdoors.
Speaking of role models and the role they played in your life, tell us about some of the lessons that you carried with yourself throughout your life until this point, and things that have actually contributed to the woman that you have become.
There's so many, but I think maybe the few impactful ones are respect for other people. When I grew up, I saw my interactions, my parents' interactions with other people, and these are, parents are people who I really respect. And they greeted the security guard, the CEO, the newspaper vendor with the same energy and the same vibe. It didn't matter where they came from, whether they knew them or not. But it's the fact that they acknowledged their presence in such a respectful way. As human beings in general. And I really like that. And I think I took that with me up until today. Respect for other people is a very big thing. It doesn't matter in which, corporate or non-corporate world you work in. And I guess also there's no shortcuts to a life worth living. My parents, come from very humble backgrounds, but they built a life for themselves that they're very proud of, and I'm definitely proud to be a part of. And people get so frustrated with the process and having to do everything by the book because it takes so long, and always trying to take shortcuts to get ahead in life. But I think, in essence, working hard and just taking your time to do things right, being integrous about it, makes a big difference. And I think I've taken especially those two life lessons with me until today, and I'm pretty sure I'll take it with me until...
And also share that with your children and whoever you touch in your life. Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, earlier on, I was talking about how you would step out of your lab coats and step on stage or in front of the cameras. Tell us about the side hustle while you were out there at university, or even now, if you have one, please.
To be honest, business is not a strength of mine. I don't think, growing up, I did, anything as a side hustle, to be honest. And maybe that's because my primary love language is acts of service. So I would do things for people. Yes, I'm good at it. I could probably have charged them. But because I love doing things for people, I probably didn't charge them. And there's so many things I enjoy doing, like talking, as you can tell, which I really should have monetized a long time ago. But until recently, until somebody said, hey, Selma, you're really good at this. Why don't you try this and make some money from it? It's not something I ever thought about. And really, to be honest, today I would even do it for free because it doesn't feel like I'm working.
Yeah.
And those are my side hustles today. I am a voiceover artist. I do a number of ads and commercials for different companies. I've been on radio for some time. I actually got into radio. Long story short, I met a good friend of mine, Daniela, during the Miss Namibia pageant 11 years ago. And she noticed, I like music and I was articulate, and she was like, we need some kind of energy, in the studio. Why don't you give it a try? And that's where it started. People on the TV saw me on the radio, and they were like, why don't you dabble in this? Went for an audition. Here we are, 10 years later. I do a live TV show part-time to Pupieni, apart from my, of course, lab coat science full-time job. And I enjoy it. I really, really enjoy it because it's so different to my 8-to-5 job.
It makes you step into a different world.
All the time.
And I'm sure that even for both, there are times when they come into contact, your lab world, science world, as well as being a presenter and an MC and so on. Tell us about how your idea of success has changed over the course of your life. I get so many different answers from Royal Hustlers, where some feel like it's not even the case yet. What is your point of view? What have you
young Selma thought success was money, nice things, and popularity, being liked, Shay. Walking down the street and everyone's screaming your name, and you're really a popular person, everybody knows, and you have lots of nice things. For me, that was success. One day when I was successful, I'd have everything that I need, and I'd have so many people around me. And, to some extent that is true, but, as I've grown older, from personal experience and also just seeing the lives of people who we think are successful, money doesn't always cut it. I think what you do with the power that the money has given you matters more. Who are you actually impacting? Whose lives are being touched by this power and popularity and this money that you have? And fine, you get 1 million likes on Instagram and Facebook and everybody knows your name, but do you like you?
Yeah.
When you've come from this hustle that has made you so successful and you're lying alone on your bed, do you like you?
Yeah.
And if you didn't have all these likes and you didn't get all this money, would you still do what you did? So, you can compare Oprah to Meme Selma down the road selling kapana. At the end of the day, her hustle has sent her children to school and built a roof over her head. She's successful. She's impacted lots of people's lives, in an important way. Probably the same way Oprah has. They're both successful in their own rights, but at the end of the day, it's how do you feel about what you've done? Yeah.
Now, at the end of the day, we know how geologists can shape the minds of young people, the minds of our nation. But tell us about how media personalities are shaping the minds of young people in this day and age through the work that we do.
We play a very important role, and of course we shape their lives because we can relate to them. We speak the same language, we have the same, lingo, and they see us more often than they do perhaps adults because we share social media. And in this generation of, follower culture, young people follow you on social media. They follow things that you do. And we are also the platform where they get all this information firsthand. As a young person, as a person in the media, a lot of information that young people get come from you and I first. So the kind of information we're disseminating and the way in which we're disseminating this information matters a lot. Young people and children for that matter can't aspire to be anything they haven't seen or they haven't heard of. So what we portray and what we put out there really matters because do they want to be this? Do they want to hear this? Depends on what we put out there. So sometimes I think we take it for granted how much power we have in that sense. And we should be a little bit more mindful and prioritize the kind of things that we put out to young people because they're listening, they're watching, they're following.
Yeah. It's our responsibility. It's completely in our hands.
And not only in the personal life, in
even
the
this
public
interaction. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us about navigating the challenge of being a young woman in an industry that is male dominated, finding your path and your feet. You're fighting for the pipettes in the lab. I don't know what you. Just tell us about.
Yeah, Shay, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Cultural prejudice, gender bias, even in 2021, believe it or not, is still rife. Women have to be so extra. They have to be extraordinary. They have to be really, really out there to be even trusted, in doing a job that a man can do. They can have exactly the same qualifications, but for them to be given the opportunity and to be trusted to do the job, especially in the energy industry or the mining industry that are working, you have to be extraordinary for you to be even given that opportunity. And although things have improved because, career awareness and so many role models, people can now see people like me, women like me in the industry. They've seen that a woman can be a geologist. It's much better. Things have definitely improved. But on a leadership level, at a management level, they're still lacking. There's so many barriers. And some of them are constructs of society. Some women have been made to believe that it's difficult to have a family work-life balance because you have to be in the field for a couple of months. Will you be able to leave your breastfeeding baby? Will your husband accept that you're in the field with other men? It's still an issue. Can you believe that? I get asked every day, Selma, who's going to marry you? My word. Things like that. And just having the experience. People say for you to be a CEO of this diamond company, you need to have 40 years experience in this industry. But we only started being active 5 years ago. How do you expect me to have that kind of, experience? The barriers and challenges are so many. But I think because so many women have pioneered through these barriers, pushed through these barriers over the past couple of years, it's become much easier. And it's really for us as the people in the industry, as the women in the industry, to show that you don't need to have 10,000 years of experience or be physically strong. As somebody like me who was on a rig with 40 other men, we're only 2 women. Those overalls are huge, the equipment is heavy, but you find a way to navigate these things. And I guess sometimes men also feel threatened in this conversation about gender equality.
Especially when women step up to the plate, especially when that extra goes a long way.
Exactly. And it's because I think they're under the impression that this is a feminist movement that is driving an agenda for domination, which is not the case. We just want equal opportunity. That's it. To be on the same level.
Walk in and walk out just like you did this morning. Yes. That's powerful, man. We're about to wrap it up. I've got one more question for you. Finding yourself in that space, coming from your childhood, your history, being a role model, a trendsetter, even.
It's not there. It's not there.
Are you hopeful for the future of Namibia? What do you see for us in future when you look at it? Yeah.
If the last 12 months are anything to go by, I don't think I'm the only one who thinks we should just press Control Alt Delete on this country and start over. But I've seen a fire, a passion, a zeal in young people that we haven't seen in decades. I think the last time we experienced this kind of revolutionary energy was probably like pre-independence.
Yeah.
But young
Yeah.
people are so outspoken about, you know, social injustice, gender-based violence, and state capture and the associated corruption. They are in a position to demand better, and they're not afraid to hold leadership accountable. And I think that's extremely powerful. They're just woke. And that is where revolutions
Smell the
begin.
coffee, yes.
They have smelled the coffee and they said, we don't like it.
Yes.
And I think that's a powerful agent for change. When people are tired of the status quo and they take the initiative to make changes.
Yeah.
Namibians are innovative, and they have a culture of, I don't know how to explain it. It's a unity that I haven't really seen anywhere else. We have our challenges. Yes, they're unprecedented, and yes, they're extraordinary. Throw COVID in there, throw corruption in there. We really have a lot of challenges. But, like Barack Obama said, we can't wait for somebody else to make the change. We can't wait for some other time. We are the people we've been waiting for to make the change. So, are we going to live integrous lives? Are we going to respect the law and each other? Are we going to raise our children in an environment that is, mental health aware? Are we going to treat women like the first-class citizens that they are or not? These kind of decisions that each of us make on a daily basis in our own circles make a big difference. I don't think it's up to one person and one Namibian and one group of people and one tribe, one gender to make all the difference. If each one would take their personal responsibility, of course there's hope. Of course there's hope in this country. We have so many good things going for us, and we're such a young nation. So we're not really stuck in our ways. We can still, move and innovate as we move along. I'm excited and hopeful.
Yeah, we can still recreate, we can still rejuvenate. We can still do that.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility to bring it to the table. Thank you so much.
Every day.
You have done what you do, and you still continue doing it and thriving. And we look forward to having this conversation with you in 5 years. And I'm sure that there will be that growth, there will be that progress, because that's what you come with. That's what you bring to the table. Thank you very much for joining me this morning.
I appreciate this platform.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It was beautiful listening to your story. Thank you very much, Selma.
Thanks, Shay.
Yeah. That was the voice of Selma Usiku. If you are missing it, you just caught us saying bye. Don't forget, you can catch it on our social media during this week.